Hi everybody, I'm Paddy from OddsOnFPL, and today I'm going to be previewing Gameweek 11. What I'm going to be talking about is fixtures, clean sheets, goals, and a few little other things that might keep you interested. There might even be a differential captain. Probably not though. Anyway, first up I'm going to be discussing fixtures are super important from now until Game Week 16. In Game Week 16, the season goes on a break for the World Cup, and it means that essentially you get another wild card. So what you really got to focus on now is choosing players which are good from now until Game Week 16. What I'm going to discuss here now, which is fixtures from the coming week for Game Week 11 and a little bit of a plan beyond then. Looking at this fixture thing over here, yeah, you can see there's the 6 fixtures up to then, with also the blank in Game Week 12. Looking at the fixtures for the upcoming week, some of the best fixtures are Arsenal against Leeds, Chelsea against Aston Villa. You could also argue that Man City have a good fixture against Liverpool in their current set of form. And then also I would consider Spurs against Everton a good fixture. I don't think Wolves and Forest will be a good game, but that's just something to consider. If you are bringing in players from Man City, you do also have to consider that in Game Week 12, they're not going to have a fixture. So you're taking a 1 week punt, essentially on them performing away from home against Liverpool. It's not something I would recommend, but I do think that City will do well. Essentially, you're punting on them to smash Liverpool, which they probably will. Looking at the six game weeks here, I've created something which is my own sort of model of fixture difficulty, giving teams rankings and then giving predictions based on that. So you can see that just here. What you should be looking for is teams with a higher number. The higher number it is, the better fixtures they have. The lower it is, the worse they have. So looking at this, Chelsea and Newcastle have some of the worst fixtures. So I probably wouldn't be targeting players from them. Arsenal and Liverpool, this is based on an average. Arsenal and Man City, actually, this is based on average, are missing a fixture, and they do have decent fixtures after the blank in Game Week 12. So they could be somebody to consider to bring in Game Week 13. Looking at the teams here, if you were going just based on fixtures, players from Bournemouth could be interesting, but I don't think I'll be bringing them in. The most obvious ones that you should consider here are teams like Crystal Palace. They have a 5 on their fixture difficulty rating. If we were to go back to look at the fixtures, you could see here that in the next 6 games, they've got Leicester, Wolves, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Nottingham Forest. Realistically, you should be targeting and bringing in a player from them. Somebody like Mark Guehi's 5.3 million, or 4.3 million even cheaper. And then you've got players like Eze who are 5.5. These are cheap enablers who could do decent for you. Going back to the FDR then, there's other teams like West Ham and Wolves. West Ham's FDR is going to be lower because they're playing Liverpool, but Wolves, they're bringing in a new manager, so that's something to consider. They'll still have good options like Nathan Collins in defense, and then West Ham have players like Scamacca, some players which are interesting to consider. You should really be getting rid of players, or considering getting rid of players from Newcastle. If you look at their rating, it's a 4, which is the tied second lowest with Chelsea. The only team worse than them is Nottingham Forest. A lot of people have double Newcastle defence, and you look at their fixtures, they got United, Everton, Spurs, Villa, Southampton and Chelsea. They have essentially 3 of the top 6 in the next 6 games. They're probably not going to keep 3 clean sheets in those games, and then at the other ones, with Everton at home, Villa at home, Southampton away, you could argue that they could get 3 clean sheets there, but they haven't been keeping clean sheets lately. So that is something to consider. Chelsea as well were considered one of the weaker ones, and that's because of the fact they've got 4 away games. In their home games, they have Arsenal and Man United. So they're not easy fixtures. There are cheap enablers in their side though, and if you have players in them, I'd probably keep them for Aston Villa and Brentford. Looking at the rest of the fixtures then, going back to the FDR, you can see that Man City don't have great fixtures, but that's because Liverpool's up next, and Liverpool also don't have great fixtures. So yeah, if you are considering and bringing in players, I would target teams like Crystal Palace, Everton, perhaps Wolves, West Ham, maybe even Spurs. Bring in players from them because they do have good fixtures, and they also don't have a blank. Next up, I'm going to be talking about odds. First up, we're going to be talking about clean sheets. All of these odds have been taken from FPL Factory, which get their odds from Odds Checker and or one of those sites, and combine them to get the average odds of them, or even the max odds. Looking at clean sheets for this week, Spurs have the best clean sheet probability, and then it's Wolves, Arsenal, Chelsea. There isn't really a lot of teams in this game week that you'd be backing for clean sheets. And when it comes to Spurs, the only real player that you should probably be considering is Eric Dyer. I do like Matt Doherty as a short-term punt, and that could be interesting if you've got a little bit of money in the bank. But Emerson Royale is probably going to take a spot back once he comes back from a ban. Looking at players from Wolves then, you've got cheap options, but I'm not sure I trust them with the new manager. Realistically, a move for a defender this week is quite a bit of a punt. It depends on whether you like it. If I was taking a punt this week, I'd probably bring in Matt Doherty. He's a bonus point magnet, he scores goals, he's a bit of an interesting pick. Next up, we're going to be talking about the goals. There'll be no surprise to you to see that the most likely goal scorer this week is Erling Braut Haaland. Next up is Gabriel Jesus, then Harry Kane, and then Heung-min Son. Looking at the games then, I'd say it's pretty obvious who you're going to have to captain. A lot of people are going to captain him, and it's going to be boring again, but it's safety. Everybody's going to captain Haaland this week. That's just what it is. You could go differential. Personally, I don't think Gabriel Jesus is that good against Leeds, but he could be a punt. Same with players like Saka. Then it goes to Harry Kane and Son Heung-min. I think they're both decent. They'll probably get one goal. But anybody who's watched Spurs lately, they've been so bad to watch. They just haven't passed the eye test. So that's something to consider. I would captain the most likely scorer this week anyway. If you have liked this video, please do subscribe. Like the video as well. Leave any comments down below. If you have any, I will get them back to you, and really do appreciate comments, likes, subscribes, because it does help the channel grow. One of the common questions I had was, who's the best goalkeeper for the next 6 weeks prior to the World Cup? Alisson I thought was a good pick, but his fixtures aren't that good and he's a bit expensive, and I'm not sure I really want him. So what I did then was I started looking at the goalkeepers who had the best FDR. Players like Sa, Pickford, Guaita, Fabianski. And then I seen that all of them are about 4.83 to 5.0. Looking at their expected points then, the player with the most expected points is Vicente Guaita at 24 points. Which is pretty good when you consider the fact that he is cheap as chips. 4.5 million. Hasn't kept a lot of clean sheets this season, but Crystal Palace's fixtures have not been good. Looking at their value per million, Jose Sa at Wolves has 4.52 because he's only got an expected points of 22.6. Looking at these players, Vicente Guaita is just a standout option because he's got more points expected than everybody. He's the cheapest goalkeeper alongside Pickford, and he's the best value per million at 5.33. It's so much better value than Fabianski, and it's just something to consider. I don't think he keeps a lot of save points or saves. So Sa and Pickford might get more than that, or even Fabianski. But at 4.5 million, I really struggle to say that he's not the best pick out of the lot. With that sort of money, you can enable it. You can buy a cheaper defender. You could buy even a second player like Guehi, which might be interesting. Or even a Zuma at West Ham, yeah. Then anyway, up next, it's the... No surprise this week, Captaincy goes to Haaland. He'll be the highest captains again. He'll be over 60% captain by players. I don't doubt that for a second. Looking at other options, there's obviously Gabriel Jesus, who might be an interesting one, or Bukayo Saka. They both have decent chances. Same with Martinelli as well. Against Leeds, that's a good fixture. Then Spurs as well. They have players that could be interesting. But is it worth your time? Probably not. I would just captain Haaland. With a bit of a, if you were going for a differential, I'd probably go for Martinelli against Leeds or Gabriel Jesus. The thing is with Gabriel Jesus, he's still so highly owned that it's not really like going for a differential. You're just doubling up on the points that over 50% of players still have. If you're going to pick a player and you want to go for a differential, I'd probably go for Bukayo Saka. He's on penalties. That's something to consider. Looking at Spurs then, Harry Kane, he always scores goals. Man United against Newcastle is a bit of a headache. I don't think I'd bother captaining somebody there. But yeah, anyway, that's been the video. If you've liked this, it's sort of something new I've done. It's just previewing the week rather than giving you my team reveal. There will be a team reveal later in the week. It'll be a shorter video, probably about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll just be discussing last week's points, which I did quite well in. I'm inside the top 20k now, and I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment, leave a like, all that jazz. Thanks a lot. I've been Paddy, over and out. If you like this video, make sure to check the one out later.